Yo, what's going on, guys? It's Hanson. So we're back with a brand new video, and I'm going to show you guys how to set up the event handler. The event handler pretty much is the same thing as the command handler. So if you guys did not watch the video on the command handler, go ahead and watch that. But we're just pretty much going to take the same code, same function that we have for register commands, and we're going to just modify it and just change it to register events. So we're going to copy this function, actually just replace it. Well, not replace it. We're going to copy and paste it down here. Just name it register events, and we're going to modify the code a little bit. Doesn't really make sense to kind of like, rewrite everything because we already have it already, because the whole concept is just the same thing. There are a couple of differences, and I'm going to point out those differences, so don't worry. But the same thing that we're doing with the commands, where basically you read in the folder recursively, so that way you can organize your files, right? And then you get the name of the file, which corresponds to the name of the command. And what you're going to do is you're going to take that name, you're going to set it as the key in our map, which is the client.commands map right over here that I've declared up here. This pretty much keeps track of all of the commands. And that key maps to a module, the module being the corresponding file for the command, and every single time when we issue the command, it's going to call this run function. I don't know why this is green. It should not be green. But anyways, that's pretty much the gist of it. So we're going to just copy this, and we're going to paste this down here. And I'm just going to change this to register events. Okay, so the code for the command handler should be on the GitHub repository, so just go ahead and just copy it. We're going to go ahead and just name the dir equals events. So this should actually be in its own folder, in the source folder. And pretty much, let's just walk through this function real quick. So the first thing that we're going to do, we're going to call this function, okay? And this function itself is an IFI, which stands for immediately invoked function expression. Okay, so when the bot.js file is executed, it's going to run this function. Okay, that's why we have it wrapped up with this parentheses, and then we call it using the open and close parentheses syntax over there. Okay, and what we're doing here is we're basically saying, okay, let files equal await fs. So fs is the file system Node.js API. Okay, we acquired it up here. Fs equals require fs.promises, so we get the promise version. Okay, and then we are calling readdir, which will read a directory, and it's going to return an array of the files. Okay, so basically this files variable over here is going to have an array of all of the files inside this events folder. So if I were to just log this, right, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to just save this real quick, and let's just run our bot now. Okay, our bot should be starting. Okay, so you can see over here we have this array. That was the array from this events over here, and it's empty because we don't have anything in there. So let's actually just create a couple of events. So we're going to do the same thing. We're going to make sure the event name matches the file name. So for the message event, we're going to do message.js, and if we save it again, you're going to see that why is this oh, let me actually comment out the rest of this code real quick, because that is trying to add it to our table that we've created in one of our other videos. So you can see now that we have message.js. We have let's try the guild member add event, which is fired whenever a member joins the guild. And you're going to see we have these two in the array, and if we did message reaction add.js, this event itself would be for whenever a user or reacts to a message. Okay, so of course, like our command handler, sometimes you might want to group your events because there are a lot of events. Okay, I think there's over like 30 or 40, I'm not sure, but we can group our events. So we can say all message events, for example, whenever a user sends the message, or whenever a message is deleted, so on message deletes. What else? We can just also leave role. We can do reactions. So we can move message reaction add in here. We can also do message reaction remove.js, and we can do one where members. So whenever a guild member joins a server, sorry, there are a whole bunch of events. Okay, so you just have to play around with it. Okay, so think of like, you know, certain events that you can group together, put it in its own folder, and the code itself will recursively read every single one of these files and register the event for you. Okay, so let's just uncomment this out. So our code is gonna break right now. Well, not break, but like there's gonna be some errors. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna continue off. Okay, so right now we know that this files array, if we look at over here, you're gonna see that it has just 3 folders, right? Before it was our events, our file names that ended with JS, but we put into folders. So it reads 3 folders, right? And notice how it's not logging what's inside, because we actually have to recursively read every single directory and then register every single file. Okay, so what we're doing here on line 154, let me zoom in a little bit, is we're basically using a for loop. So we're saying let file of files. So pretty much this is going to loop through every single file or every single element inside this files array. And we have 3 directories, right? So what we want to do is we want to actually check to see if the current file is a directory. So what we're doing here on line 155 is we are calling path.join. So underscore dir name is the current directory name. We join it with dir, which is the events folder currently, and then file, which is the name of the subdirectory. This is the first iteration, okay? And we're going to check if, I think the first element is going to be members, so we're checking to see if members is a directory. Okay, that's what this line over here, 156, if stat is directory. If it's a directory, which it is, we're going to call register, well, it's going to be register events. Let's change that. Okay, don't worry, I'm going to walk through the whole code, so at least you guys are aware of what's going on. And what we're doing here, the parameter is going to be path.join, so the current directory, so in this case, it's events, and then it joined with file, so members. The reason why we're doing that is because basically, on line 51, it's going to join the current directory with the new directory name. So it's not going to be events anymore, it's going to be events/members. Okay, so this, pretty much we're at line 151 again. It's going to read the entire directory in members. So if I save, you're going to see that right now, you're going to see on the first iteration it logged members, the second iteration it logged guild member add, right? And then afterwards it logged message.js, and then it logged these 2. So now we are hitting the other files now, okay? And if, let's say, for example, if inside members I had, you know, another folder, let's just call this another, right? And let's just say something.js, right? If that was the case, it would also read those files as well. Okay, that it's going to keep reading the subdirectory until there are no more subdirectories. You can see something is right over there. Okay, pretty cool, pretty cool. Alright, but you guys get the idea. So let's continue. Okay, you don't have to worry so much about, you know, this code right now. I just want to walk through it so that people who want to learn about what it does, they would understand it. So in case if you ever want to modify, you can do so. But if you don't really care so much about it, you don't have to worry so much about it. All you need to know is that this will just take care of registering all the events for you. Okay, but let's continue. So now, it comes to a point where, so right now, right, this file itself is an array, and we're inside the members folder, okay? And we can see that the current file, right, we're looping through it again, the current file is guildmemberadd.js, and we can see that it's not a directory, it's just a JavaScript file. And that's where we're going to go inside this else case, and inside this else case, we're doing the same thing that we've done in the register commands function. So we're going to check to make sure that the file ends with .js. We're going to get the name of the file. So instead of cmd name, we're going to change it to event name, just so we can be consistent, because this is for events, not commands. And we're going to do the same thing. We're getting the event name, and we're going to get the event module. So we're going to require this event module file, okay? And what we're going to do is I'm going to omit this part over here. Okay, so this was for the command table. So if you didn't watch my command status loader tutorial, which shows you how to create this table, if you're using a command handler, all that code does was it just verifies that the command was properly loaded. Okay, meaning that it had the proper the correct properties, the correct value types, and whatnot. We're gonna omit this because we're not gonna worry about this for now. Okay, I'll save it for another tutorial. But all we want to do is we want to require that event file, and we're gonna do the same thing. Well, actually, here's the thing with the event handler. You actually do not need to, you don't need to keep track of it inside a map, right? Because with the command handler, we needed a map and this client.commands, right? And what the command handler would do is we would listen to the message event and we would check to see, first of all, we would check to see if the person issued a command. If they did, we're going to check if that command actually exists in the map client.commands, and if it did, we're going to invoke the run function. Okay, with the event handler though, the only thing that you need to do is you just need to attach an event listener to the event one time. That's all you need to do. Okay, you don't have to worry about anything else. You don't have to, load in the map. If you want to load in a map, you can. That would be a good way to keeping track of which events were loaded properly, so you can know if so you'll know immediately why something went wrong. Okay, well, for now, all I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna go ahead and do this. So we're gonna go ahead and require the event module, and what we're going to do is we're going to need to bind the we're going to need to attach the event listener. So we're gonna go and say clients on event name. Okay, so over here, so in case you don't know, the client class is also an instance of an event emitter. Okay, event emitters allow you to emit events as well as listen to events. In this case, whenever you call the on function on an event emitter, right, that allows you to listen to events. So event name in this case, I'll log it to the console, is going to be all of our events over here. Okay, so we're dynamically going to attach an event listener. And we're going to attach a listener to whatever event name this is. Okay, and what we're going to do is we're going to reference the event module, and we're going to call it .bind. Okay, and I'll explain in just 1 sec on what the bind function does, but you might already know already, so don't worry. But the idea is over here. Notice how with all of our event listeners that we are listening to, right? So let's go through here. So we have client on ready. We have a callback function. Okay, this callback function takes in no parameters. Okay, for the message event, right? We're listening to the message event over here. Takes in one callback function, and it takes in a parameter for the callback function. The message reaction add takes in a callback function and has 2 parameters. And same thing with the message reaction move. So pretty much every single event that you're going to listen to is going to take in a callback function. That callback function is also known as a handler function, right? It's pretty much supposed to handle the event because events are asynchronous, right? So you pass in a callback function, and that function is going to be invoked whenever that event is emitted, whenever that event is triggered, okay? So what we're going to do here is we're going to listen to the event. We're going to attach an event listener to whatever event it is. We need to pass in a callback function, okay? But we're not going to invoke that function. We're going to pass in, a function, but we're going to bind it, okay? So this function is going to be called for later on, okay? That's why we need to call bind, because we're going to pass in this function for later use, okay? Another reason why we need to call bind is because we need to pass in the null, and there was one more thing we needed to do. We need to pass in the client object itself. Okay, the reason why we're passing in the client object is because since these events are going to be in their own file, we're not going to have reference to the client object in those files. Instead of creating a new instance of the client object, right, which you don't want to do because we've already done it up here, right? We're going to pass that client object in. Okay, so I'm going to show you what this actually does. Okay, I know it's a lot of information taken, but don't worry. Okay, so now, with this being set, what we can do is I'm just going to do a simple console log. Event name was registered. Okay, let me just get rid of this console log. So let's save, and you're going to see bunch of bunch of event module that might. Oh, okay. Let me actually do something real quick. So we actually need to create our module that exports, and this is actually going to be a function. Okay, and we're gonna do clients. Okay, so this itself is going to be the client that we are passing in from line 164 over here. Okay, and what we're gonna do is whatever event parameters for the callback function, whatever parameters it takes in for a callback function, you're gonna mimic it. So for guild member add, it takes in one parameter, it takes member. Right? So we're gonna add that as well. That's gonna be the second parameter. Okay? And I'm just gonna do a simple console.log guild member add was registered. Okay, and likewise, so for the message event, we're going to take in the client parameter first, right? So for every single module that exports function inside our event file, the client object is going to be the first parameter that we're taking in, and after, the second parameter is going to be message, right? You're probably wondering, well, why is it over here for our callback functions? Why are we not passing in the client over here? Okay, well, obviously because this itself, we're not using the event handler, and the callback function only passes in one message object. The reason why over here we're able to take in two parameters is because we're calling bind. Okay, so when you bind a function, you're basically allowing it to be called for later on, but you're also binding it on a certain object to be used on, right? But in this case, we are not binding our function to any object. That's why we pass in null. But when you also bind a function, you can also pass in other arguments as well. Okay, so I can pass in the client argument. Okay, and that means when I call the function again, it's going to take that in as the parameter over here. Okay, and any other parameter that the original callback function passed in is going to pass in after. Okay, so I can pass in as many arguments as I want. So I can say hello. So in this case, when we're calling this function over here, it's going to take in client, it's going to take in our custom argument that we pass in, which is hello, and it's going to take in member, which is the last parameter over there. So pretty much like all of the parameters get shifted over. I know when I first saw this pattern, it was a little bit weird, but you just have to kind of understand how the bind function works. So I highly suggest you guys look up a JavaScript bind to get a better understanding of it. Okay, but anyways, so we're just gonna do the same thing for everything. We're gonna do message registered, and let's just delete message delete because we have a lot going on, so I don't want to waste too much time. And we're gonna do the same thing for here because we have these events as well. So we're gonna do client reaction user, and we're gonna just do a console log message reaction add events registered. Okay, and in another tutorial, I will show you guys how to do another table like I did with the command handler. So don't worry. Like a table to show which events successfully were registered. Message reaction remove event was registered. Okay, so if we save, this should give us no errors. Okay, so you can see guild member add was registered, message was registered, message reaction add, and message reaction remove. Perfect. Okay, great. Okay, so awesome. Let's actually just get rid of this. And let's just get rid of the other console logs because we don't need them anymore. And let's actually do some stuff now. Because right now we only said that it was registered, but we actually haven't tested it yet. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to take my events that I have from my bot.js file, and I'm just going to copy them. And I'm going to go ahead and just paste our logic in here. Okay. Let's just make sure that everything is good. Okay, so see, we don't have to worry about any reference errors because we have our client over here, and we can just reference. So this will also work with our command handler. Okay, it's supposed to work with the command handler. We're going to do the same thing for our ready events. I'm going to take the events, save that. Oh, I forgot to I'm going to create a folder called init because the ready event is just going to be ready, or I can call this misc. It doesn't really matter. So the ready event, let's just do our module.exports. The ready event normally does not take in any parameters for its callback function, but since we're passing in client, we should pass it in as well. And we need to actually move some of our code into this ready event because we have a couple of dependencies. For example, we need the create stream function, which is used for creating our table. We also need, let's see, database. So that's going to be right over here. And I think we need our table config. So let's go ahead and just grab that. So the path of that is going to be different because we're in a different folder now. So I think we have to do // config. Perfect. I think that should be good enough. Okay, and you're going to notice that our bot file is going to be very, very clean. So we're getting a couple errors, but of course we just need to clean a couple things. So what is going on? So cannot find module. Okay, so let's fix that. This should be go. So that should fix that. And command status dot length. So over here is where we're registering that. Okay, you don't have a reference to our command status. That's with our command file. So what I could do is, let's see. Well, we need a reference to this already because of our register commands, because this is what's keeping track of our, You know what I could do? I could honestly just move these files to, I could move these two functions into a different file that matches the ready event. But I'm not going to worry so much about the command status right now. We can honestly just leave this alone because it doesn't really, not really relevant to this tutorial. So I'm going to ignore this. So I'm going to go ahead and just comment all this stuff out, except for the database part. Okay, so we're going to not worry about that. I'll fix it up for the next tutorial. Okay, so, okay, all of our, okay, everything's good. Okay, should be good. So let's get rid of the ready events. Let's also just move our message reaction. And so this is also going to be a problem too because we have, actually no, we should be good. So message add, so this over here. So we need to require our dependencies. So we need const message model equals require. That's going to come from the database folder /models/message. We need a reference to the cached message reactions. So that's going to be this map itself. So that's going to be a problem because this map itself is shared with message reaction remove. So it's going to make things a little bit more complicated, but we're going to fix it in the next tutorial. So don't worry so much about that for now. Okay. And we're going to move this to... I might actually need to use my own custom event emitter to fix this. Otherwise, there's really no other way to fix it. Database, models, message. Okay, and don't worry about this message doc fetch. That's my own custom events. Okay, so we should not get any, what's going on? We need to move prefix into the message events. Okay, message reaction add. Oh, async. Whoops. What else right over here? Async. And there's one more thing. Message reaction remove should be good. Okay, so we're good. Okay. Now, you're gonna see right over here. Whoops. You're gonna see that this definitely works because it says v12 Discord bot has logged in, connected to DB, and you're gonna see that our code for the ready event is working. Okay. If it wasn't registered, it would not have done this. It would have not have logged these console. Okay. Likewise, you can see that our code, we have decreased our bot.js file from 100 over like 180 lines of code to now 92. Of course, we can, get rid of some other stuff too. But I hopefully that gives you guys the idea. Obviously, right now this code itself, a lot of the other code, I need to fix the rest of the code because we just changed everything we moved all of our events from our main file to the other file, so I got to spend some time to fix it to figure out how I'm going to do it because right now from the role reaction bot tutorial, so for now I just want you guys to understand how the event handler works, but don't try to do it with this code because I still need to fix the other things first. The reason why is because right now we have a couple of variables that need to be referenced among different files. So, I mean, one thing that I could do is I could probably just declare this thing globally and just pass it in. So, for example, I could just put this over here, and I can just pass it in with the message reaction add event. But I don't really like that because it's going to be extra variables that, I mean, I could just do this. Where is it? Find this. This is just going to have to be the second parameter. So for our other events, it's not going to use it. That's why I don't like it, because all the other events are going to be affected as well. So I'd rather just use my own event emitter to handle it. But yeah, so there's a lot of other stuff that we have to do before this thing will work. But the events do work though. Okay, so for example, if I try to use my custom commands, so what commands do I have again? I don't even remember. Add role. Let's use add role. Okay. So let's just get rid of all of our roles. Add role, v12. There we go. And the reason why this works is because our message event is working. Okay, so hopefully this event handler tutorial made sense. Remember, the whole idea of these tutorials are to show you guys how to implement these things. Of course, you don't want to always just copy the entire thing, but you should take what you learned from this video and implement your own ideas. Okay, but again, it's very straightforward, very, very simple idea. It's the same idea of the command handler, so you know, it's just pretty straightforward, to be honest. But yeah, I mean, for the most part, yeah, if you have any questions, just let me know. Feel free to join my Discord server. You know, there's we're at over 800 members. We're almost at 1,000. Okay, and you know, I've been really happy with the growth of this server because I started the server last year around, like, I think May, and it was only like less than 100 people, obviously, because it was still new. And being able to see this server grow, like, you know, from, you know, a month-to-month basis, I'm really proud of it. And yeah, a lot of people come on the server, they ask questions, they're able to, you know, get help. So if you need help with coding, it doesn't have to be just Discord.js, it could be just anything in general. Say you want to learn something new, you can just ask your question here, and someone on the server who, you know, is confident enough, they will answer the question. You know, the whole point is to just build some kind of, you know, community collaboration. Okay, I don't want to, you know, go on too much of a rant, but hopefully this video made sense. Hopefully you guys learned how to set up an event handler. And again, if you have any questions, just ask me on my Discord server in one of these channels, and I'll be happy to answer. So I'll see you guys in my next video. Peace.